Do you need better boundaries? Who doesn't? Hey guys, welcome to another Mind Right Monday. I'm your host, Bonnie Kelly, and we're going to talk about boundaries today. Yes, that beautiful thing that all of us could use a little bit more skills and refinement around. So let's talk about why we don't set boundaries, because that's really what we need to know before we can get into how to set boundaries in a way that actually gets you what you desire. Now, first, you have to understand why you don't. Are you avoiding setting boundaries because you're afraid? Maybe you're afraid of hurting them. Maybe you're afraid of getting rejected. Maybe you're afraid of losing love. Maybe you're afraid that they're not going to like you or want to hang out with you. What is your fear? Because typically why we don't do it is based out of fear. And once we actually know what that is, that gives us a little bit of a leg up to do things differently. But if we don't understand why we don't do something, well, you're probably going to keep doing it. All right, so once we determined what it is, what's the fear, what's the insecurity around us not asserting boundaries, now we need to learn a better way. Because if you're like 99% of people who assert boundaries, it's probably not in the healthiest manner. In fact, you probably have just been pushed too far. They've asked one too many things of you. You are at your wit's end. You can't take it anymore. You're just frustrated and frazzled, and you just don't understand how can they be so inconsiderate. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's pretty common. But once we get to this point, we're going to assert boundaries with aggression and emotion. We are going to be frustrated, and it's going to come through in our assertment. We're going to be very short answered. We're going to command, and it's going to be confrontational and most likely end with confrontation. Now, I know that's not what you desire, but again, if we don't know why we're not asserting boundaries, you're going to end up doing it that way because you'll avoid and avoid and avoid until you can't avoid anymore. All right. So again, start with the inner work, then we move to the outer work. Boundaries often are an inside job first. So the very first thing you need to do, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Let's be real. Meaning that when you want to assert a boundary, or maybe you need to speak up and you need to help other people better understand how to interact with you. Now, did you hear that? I said you need to help people better understand how to interact with you. Everybody has their own set of values. Everybody has their own rule book of engagement, meaning how do we treat and respond and interact with each other is based on our own perceptions, our own experiences, and our own conditioning. And well, let's be honest, the world's got a lot of messed up things out there that have kind of messed us all up a little bit. And so as a result, we don't know how to advocate for our needs. We don't know when we are emotionally crossing someone else's boundaries. So you need to, as an emotionally intelligent person, make sure that you're advocating and teaching other people how to interact with you better. So you need to check yourself. The first step in asserting boundaries is to know what you need and what's stopping you from getting it. Okay, we've already been covering that topic. You need to know, where's your fear? Why haven't you asserted a boundary in the first place? In addition to that, we need to know within ourselves, what is it that I need right now? Why am I getting triggered? What about this situation is really bothering me? Once we do that internal check, now we can begin to eliminate our own bias, our own judgment, our own expectations of how they should act, how they should be. Now, if you need some help with some expectations, check out one of our other videos. We got a ton of personal development videos just for you. All right, so we want to be able to go inwards, all right? Now, the next thing we need to do, now we need to ask for what we need. And right now, I'm going to teach you my 4 top boundary rules. Are you ready? Number 1, we need to clearly ask for what it is that we desire. Again, a lot of times with boundaries, our fear kicks in, or our emotion is so in our face. It's welling up in our hearts. We're stuttering Stanleys when we're like, trying to assert a boundary, because we're so afraid of hurting them or them feeling bad about themselves or losing that friendship or creating distance between our families. And so we tend to not know how to use our voice in a way that is really going to clearly state what it is we desire. And so typically what we do is that we kind of beat around the bush. We, a roundabout way, tell them what it is that we desire. Well, clarity is king when it comes to asserting boundaries. If they don't clearly know how to interact with you, to clearly know how to treat you, they're not going to know how to best approach any situation, and it's going to be a lose-lose situation. So you need to clearly assert what it is that you desire. Next, boundary rule number 2 is you need to be kind. All right, guys. Number 2 is you need to be kind. You need to give that other person the benefit of the doubt. Now, I get it. It's very easy to know when you are trespassing on someone's personal property, right? We have a no trespassing sign that is set up to tell you that, hey, this is my property and I don't want you on it. But we don't have emotional trespassing signs. We don't have signs that emotionally tell other people how to interact with you. What is acceptable language? Is it okay to curse around you or not? Is it okay to make inappropriate jokes or not? Where are your emotional boundaries and where is that threshold? And so we need to give people the benefit of the doubt and assume that they're not intentionally crossing your boundaries. They're not intentionally trying to walk into your emotional space. It's just that they don't know better because you haven't asked them or helped them understand what's appropriate for you. So rule number 1, clear. Rule number 2 is kind. So clear, kind. Now let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is unemotional. That's right, guys. Clear, kind, unemotional. You need to remove your emotions. Okay, that goes back to what I was saying earlier with the inner work, is that you have to know what's going on. Where's your triggers? Where's your fears? Where's your insecurities? If you haven't done that work, it's going to be very, very hard to be unemotional when you set a boundary, especially if this person has repeatedly crossed your boundary lines. So you have to be willing to be unemotional about the boundary setting. Because if you show up and you set a boundary with emotion, that's all they're going to hear. They're only going to hear your tone and your frustration. They're going to only hear your anger. And then they're going to go onto the defense to protect themselves, to protect their honor, or to protect, their reasonings. And so, especially if they feel under attack. So you absolutely have to take the emotion out when asserting a boundary if you want to at least try to have the most success possible. Okay, last one, which is, drumroll, request versus command. Yep, ladies and gentlemen, one of my absolute favorite boundary rules is that you need to make a request, not a command. Let me explain. A command is when you say, stop it, don't treat me like this, don't do this, honor this, do that, you should know better. When we begin to just very directly tell people what to do, is that we're commanding them to how to behave around us. Well, you don't have any emotional buy-in from that person. And as a result, probably aren't going to get what you need or desire. So I say, have a request. Okay, so I say clear, kind, unemotional, request versus command. Let me bundle this all up with a big, beautiful bow just for you. So here's how it would sound. Let's say you have a friend who's perpetually late. They're constantly showing up 20, 30 minutes late to your appointments or to your lunches. This is how you would assert a boundary following my 4 boundary rules. Hey friend, I'm sure it's not your intention to hurt me. However, when you show up late for our appointments, it really does bother me a lot. Would you be willing to honor our scheduled appointments for our next meeting? See? It really can be that simple. Now, if you have somebody who's repeatedly disrespecting your boundaries, I do have a 3-step policy when it comes to boundaries that I'm happy to share in another video. But for right now, you want to start practicing these 4 boundary rules. You want to give people the benefit of the doubt. You need to clearly ask for what you want. You need to be very unemotional when you're asserting a boundary, and you need to make it a request. You need to get their emotional buy-in along with yours to ensure that there is clear agreement between both of you of how to engage moving forward. So hopefully this video has helped in some ways. As you know, this is just scratching the surface of a much bigger conversation. If you are ready to dive a little deeper into understanding boundaries, expectations, and to really take emotional responsibility, I strongly encourage you to check out my Forgiving the Unforgivable course. Don't let the name fool you. The number 5 step in boundaries or in forgiveness is boundaries. We need to learn to teach people how to engage with us better and differently. But that requires us to do a lot of inner work. And this 6-module course is going to help you do that. Signing up is easy. I even included an awesome discount just for you. Be mindful, it's time sensitive. But until next time, I'm Bonnie Kelly. Did you like this video? I hope so. As always, they're brought to you from viewers just like you. If you have a personal development question, email us at getinspired@bonniekelly.me. And if you're ready to take your boundaries 300 steps further than where you're at today, then check out the course. The link is below. I strongly encourage you to do some work around this issue. Boundaries is one of those things that is going to give you a lot of emotional freedom in your relationships. You can truly have better, more functioning relationships even with dysfunctional people. So if you're ready to make that commitment, I've got a special offer just for you. The link is below, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Mwah!